picture this scenario. You are Michael. You're a mid-level manager, generally beloved by your colleagues.
Everyone loves Michael.
Right, exactly. And you've somehow become the unofficial go-to person for putting out fires in the office.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 5:30 p.m., you literally have your coat on, and a coworker rushes over in an absolute panic about a quarterly report.
Oh, I can feel the stress already.
Right. You desperately want to say no. I mean, you need to say no.
Right.
But the word yes just sort of, it bypasses your brain and slips right out of your mouth.
Yep, it's a reflex.
And as a direct result of those three letters, you are now sitting in a dim office, staring at a spreadsheet, completely missing your daughter's piano recital.
It is a heavy, sinking feeling, and honestly, it is the absolute definition of a universal workplace experience. Like, we have all found ourselves in Michael's shoes, trading our personal lives for someone else's emergency.
Yeah, and that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We are unpacking the research, the psychological data, and the insights from top business leaders to figure out why we constantly hand over our time when every fiber of our being wants to refuse.
Right.
We're going to explore the hidden career costs of this habit, and most importantly, equip you with actionable, workplace-tested strategies to set boundaries without, destroying your professional reputation.
Because the underlying terror is always that setting a boundary equals career sabotage. We assume that saying no means we will be labeled difficult or uncooperative.
Which we'll see is actually a massive misconception. But before we get into the mechanics of that, I want to toss out a mental model for how we treat our time.
Okay, let's hear it.
We tend to operate as if our capacity is this infinitely renewable resource. But a better way to look at it is like the battery life and the processing power of your smartphone.
Oh, I like that.
Right. Because every single time you say yes to a peripheral request, you are essentially opening another app to run in the background. It drains your battery, it slows down your operating system, and you are simultaneously saying no to the core functions you actually need to perform, whether you realize it or not.
That processing power analogy is crucial because to understand how to stop opening those background apps, we first have to understand why our brains are hardwired to do it so automatically. Like, why do we accept requests we actively don't want to do?
Yeah. What's the mechanism there?
Well, the research we're looking at points to a concept that Oprah Winfrey famously calls the disease to please.
The disease to please. It sounds almost clinical, but it perfectly captures that knee-jerk reaction.
It functions very much like a reflex. I mean, we say yes because we want people to perceive us as agreeable, and fundamentally we are terrified of their anger or disappointment.
Right.
But the dark irony of the disease to please is the aftermath. You end up furious with yourself, just simmering with resentment. Meanwhile, the person who made the request isn't sitting around losing sleep over your stress.
No, they're thrilled. They got their problem solved.
Exactly. They aren't mapping out your cognitive load. They just know you are the path of least resistance, so they will inevitably come back the next time they have a problem.
You are training them to use you as an overflow valve.
Precisely. And this conditioning, it starts incredibly early. If you think about childhood development to a toddler, the word no represents absolute doom.
Oh, yeah.
It's the word that stops you from eating candy for dinner, or the word that crushes your dream of wearing a Batman costume to school.
It's the ultimate barrier to entry for everything you want when you're 5 years old.
Right. And as we mature into professionals, we carry the emotional weight of that association into the office. We are conditioned to believe that saying yes means we are helpful, kind, and, essential to the tribe.
So we internalize it.
Yes. Consequently, we internalize the false narrative that saying no makes us selfish or a roadblock to progress.
But let me challenge that a bit. Because at work, the stakes feel structural, not just social. I mean, I'm not just worried about my colleagues liking me. I'm worried about my performance review.
That's a fair point.
Is this really just a desire to be liked? Or is there a deeper insecurity driving this behavior in corporate environments?
You are hitting on a massive psychological divide here. It's the difference between intrinsic versus earned worth.
Okay, unpack that.
So in modern knowledge work, output is often invisible. You aren't building widgets on an assembly line where you can point to 50 finished products at the end of the day.
Right, you're just answering emails and making decks.
Exactly. Because of that ambiguity, many professionals fall into the trap of using a completely packed calendar as an artificial proxy for their value.
Oh, wow. So it's an anxiety blanket. We use tasks to prove we deserve to be in the building.
That is exactly the mechanism. They mistakenly believe their professional value is measured by the sheer volume of favors they do for others. They feel they have to constantly earn their space in the office through endless availability.
Rather than recognizing their actual value.
Right, rather than recognizing their intrinsic worth, the fact that they were hired for specific skills, critical thinking, and judgment. They were not hired to be a human shock absorber for everyone else's poor time management.
Which brings us to the most counterintuitive finding in all the data we reviewed.
Yeah, this is the big one.
We say yes out of this deep-seated fear that saying no will stall our careers. But the research reveals that saying yes too often is actually the primary driver of career stagnation.
It leads straight into what we can call the mediocrity trap. Take the case study of Sarah, a graphic designer highlighted in the materials.
I remember her story.
She was highly talented, but paralyzed by the fear that if she declined any project, the creative opportunities would just dry up entirely. So she accepted every single request, regardless of the timeline or the budget.
And mechanically, what happens when you do that? You literally run out of processing power.
Her system crashed. I mean, the hidden cost of all those yeses wasn't just late nights. It was a severe decline in her actual work quality.
Because you can't give 100% to 50 different things.
No, you can't. She was in a state of perpetual stress, nearing total burnout. When you spread yourself that thin, you physically cannot excel. Your brain does not have the bandwidth for deep, innovative thought.
Wow.
You become known as the person who will do anything, but you stop being known as the person who does anything exceptionally well.
I'll take that a step further, because the fallout isn't contained to the individual. It actively deteriorates the entire team's function.
Oh, absolutely.
There was a fascinating dynamic in the story of Lisa, another professional from our sources. She was essentially doing the work of 3 people. Because she never pushed back, she thought she was the ultimate team player, carrying the department on her back.
But she was actually enabling a toxic cycle.
Yes, she was masking the systemic inefficiencies. Because she always caught the falling plates, her colleagues never had to learn how to juggle.
They just let her do it.
Exactly. They became entirely dependent on her. And management never realized they were understaffed or that certain employees were drastically underperforming.
The psychological term for what her colleagues experienced is learned helplessness. When one person constantly removes the obstacles, the rest of the group loses the ability to solve problems.
That makes so much sense.
And frankly, some managers subconsciously prefer an inefficient yes person because it prevents them from having to have difficult conversations with the underperformers. Lisa wasn't saving the team, she was preventing it from evolving.
Okay, I hear all of this. The psychology makes sense, the mediocrity trap makes sense, but let me step into the shoes of our listener for a second. If I'm sitting at my desk tomorrow morning and I decide to start telling my boss or my aggressive cross-functional partners no, I am terrified I'm going to get a reputation as, not a team player. Corporate culture loves a yes man. Won't I just get fired?
That is the ultimate fear, but let's look at the resolution of Michael's story, our manager who missed the piano recital.
Right, our guy from the beginning.
That missed recital was his breaking point. He finally stopped being the overflow valve. He started looking at tasks outside his job description and saying, I'm focusing on my core responsibilities. He didn't apologize. He just clearly stated his priorities.
And the sky didn't fall.
The sky didn't fall. In fact, he experienced the paradox of respect. When Michael stopped doing everyone's job, his colleagues were forced to adapt and handle their own workloads.
Imagine that.
Right. His boss, stripped of the easy out, had to actually distribute tasks fairly across the department. Within 2 years, Michael received a promotion.
Wait, really? A promotion?
Yes. The feedback from his leadership specifically highlighted his exceptional ability to prioritize and manage time.
That is fascinating. So the act of pushing back actually signaled leadership material.
Setting firm boundaries doesn't diminish respect. It establishes it. People inherently respect professionals who know the limits of their own bandwidth.
If we accept that, if we know that saying yes to everything sabotages our work and our reputation, we need a completely new mental model for how we operate. We have to stop viewing no as a rejection and start viewing it as a tool.
A structural tool for success.
Yeah. There was this brilliant visualization from a TEDx talk in our research. The speaker pointed out that modern business culture absolutely idolizes what he calls the sword of yes.
Slashing through opportunity.
Exactly. Slashing through opportunities, being aggressive, taking on the world, saying yes to every networking event and project. But almost no one is taught how to wield the shield of no. And you fundamentally need that shield to protect your long-term vision from short-term distractions.
The shield of no. It implies active defense. And that speaker shared an incredibly high-stakes example of wielding it. His young startup was offered a coveted spot to pitch on the reality TV show Shark Tank.
Which is the holy grail.
Mm.
I mean, the free marketing alone from a primetime broadcast is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is the definition of a golden opportunity.
Most founders would have signed the contract without reading it. But as his team got deeper into the interview rounds, his intuition started flashing warning signs.
Uh-oh.
He realized that accepting the offer would force the company to pivot. They would have to prioritize chasing rapid scale, money, and television fame over ethically building the sturdy foundation of his company. So to the absolute horror of his entire team, he raised the shield and declined the offer.
Turning down national television requires a massive amount of conviction. But he understood that the shield of no doesn't just close a door to an opportunity. It protects the integrity of the house you are trying to build.
And if you look at the absolute peak of the business world, this is the consistent blueprint. Steve Jobs famously saved Apple from bankruptcy in 1997, not by inventing 50 new products to capture every possible market, but by wielding a massive, unforgiving shield of no.
Oh yeah, the product line cut.
Exactly. He aggressively cut the product line down to just 4 categories.
The mechanism there is focus. Focus isn't about staring really hard at one thing. Focus is literally the act of saying no to 100 really good ideas, so you have the processing power for the truly great ones.
Warren Buffett echoes this exact sentiment. He noted that the difference between successful people and very successful people is that the very successful people say no to almost everything.
Wow.
If your life is already completely saturated with okay commitments, you literally lack the vacancy for exceptional opportunities when they arise.
I have to pause you there, though, because it is incredibly easy to wield a shield when you are Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
They own the company. If they say no, it's corporate policy. But if I'm Michael, the middle manager, I don't dictate the product line. My boss does. How does someone lower on the org chart use this shield when they don't have ultimate authority?
That is the most critical friction point in this entire discussion. You are absolutely right. You cannot walk into the CEO's office and cancel a product launch. But you do have sovereignty over your specific domain and your specific key performance indicators.
So how do I use it?
Wielding the shield as an employee isn't about blanket refusal. It's about forcing prioritization. It's saying to your boss, I have the capacity to deliver Project A or Project B with excellence by Friday. Which one is the priority?
Ah, I see.
You are using the shield to protect the quality of the work, not just your personal comfort.
That makes a lot of sense. You are shifting the burden of choice back to the person making the demand.
Yeah.
But even with that strategy, my throat still closes up when a colleague is physically standing at my desk, tapping their watch, waiting for an answer.
The pressure is real.
We need the actual, practical communication tools to deploy this shield in the moment.
The tactical execution is where most people fail. And the very first step is giving yourself internal clearance. Communication expert Michelle Tillis-Letterman shared a fantastic detail about this. Her husband actually stuck a Post-it note with the word no on her computer monitor.
Literally just the word no.
Just the word no.
Yeah.
It stayed there for a year, serving as a visual cue that she had permission to use the word.
I love that. It bypasses the subconscious guilt. It reminds you that it's allowed.
Once you grant yourself that permission, Letterman offers a brilliant tactical approach for when you are put on the spot. She suggests abandoning the one-word answer entirely. Her primary technique is the no-but response.
Walk me through how that functions in a real conversation.
Let's imagine an industry contact asks you to do a pro bono speaking engagement. The catch is, it requires driving 2 hours in heavy rush hour traffic to speak to a tiny room of only 30 people.
Sounds miserable.
Right. Your instinct might be to just say yes to maintain the relationship or deliver a blunt no, which feels uncomfortably harsh. Instead, you use no but. You say, I can't make that drive right now, but if you can guarantee 100 people in the room, I'm happy to reconsider it.
Okay.
Or, no, I can't travel, but I'd be happy to do a 20-minute virtual session.
Oh, that's incredibly clever. You aren't rejecting them. You're establishing the parameters of your value. It puts the ball back in their court to meet your standards.
It maintains your professional boundaries while leaving the door open for a future yes, if your conditions are met. It preserves the relationship without sacrificing your time.
You could also use conditional yeses to manage internal workflows, right? Like,
Right.
yes, I can help with that spreadsheet after I finish this major client presentation on Thursday.
Absolutely.
But my absolute favorite tool we uncovered is the simple delay tactic. The phrase, let me check my schedule and get back to you.
Why does that one resonate so strongly with you?
Because it acts as a neurological circuit breaker. When someone ambushes me with a request, my sympathetic nervous system kicks in. My immediate adrenaline response is to make them happy and resolve the tension.
Fight, flight, or fawn?
Exactly, fawn. But if I have a preloaded script that says, let me check my calendar, it buys me physical and mental space. It gives me 10 minutes away from their expectant face to actually look at my battery life and figure out if this request aligns with my actual goals.
That space is critical. You are not obligated to respond to every request in real time. Taking an hour to thoughtfully consider your capacity isn't rude. It is deeply responsible behavior.
But here's the trap. Even when we memorize these great strategies, professionals often completely sabotage their own boundaries right at the finish line in the exact moment of delivery.
We truly do. And the biggest pitfall here is the compulsion to over-explain. We have been socially conditioned to believe that no is only a complete sentence for people in positions of power.
Yeah, that's so true.
A boss can say no without a reason. A client can say no without justification. But as employees or even as friends, we feel this intense, suffocating pressure to scramble for a good enough excuse to validate our refusal.
Let me give you an analogy for why this is so destructive. When you launch into a lengthy, detailed excuse about why you can't take on a task, you are basically taking your decision, putting it on a silver platter, and submitting it to the other person for their approval.
Whoa, I like that.
You are implicitly saying, here is my reasoning, please judge whether it is valid enough to excuse me.
And human nature dictates that they will immediately try to problem solve your excuse. If you say, I can't take on this report because I have a dentist appointment at 4 p.m., your manager will seamlessly reply, great, you can just finish the report after the dentist.
You've completely trapped yourself. You handed them the blueprints to dismantle your boundary. A simple, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to take that on, or I have competing commitments. Even if that commitment is just going home to rest and recharge your battery signals, deep self-respect. You do not owe people a forensic audit of your time management.
And that self-respect radiates outward and trains your environment. People will treat you exactly how you train them to treat you. If you trust your own judgment enough not to offer a frantic explanation, your colleagues will eventually learn to trust your judgment too.
Are there any other toxic delivery habits we need to drop immediately?
Two major ones. First is excessive apologizing, saying, I'm so sorry, I feel terrible about this, I really wish I could, but I just can't, completely undermines your authority.
It makes you sound weak.
It invites the other person to try and negotiate or change your mind because you sound plagued with doubt. A single polite, I'm sorry, but I can't, is sufficient.
And the second habit?
The drawn out, maybe. This is when you say, not right now, but maybe ask me again next month, when you absolutely mean never in a million years.
We've all done that.
We do it because it feels like a softer blow in the moment, but it's actually an act of emotional cowardice. It gives false hope and forces the person to waste their time following up with you. A clean, definitive break is always kinder than a drawn out maybe.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It stings for a fraction of a second, but it prevents a prolonged infection.
It allows everyone to move on and find actual solutions.
So bringing all of these mechanics together, what is our core lesson today? Saying no is not an act of rejection. It is not about being uncooperative, selfish, or difficult.
Not at all.
True kindness, both in the workplace and in your personal life, is being ruthlessly honest about your actual capacity. Wielding that shield of no is simply protecting your ability to do your absolute best work for the things that truly matter.
It's protecting the core operating system. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought experiment that shifts this from the individual to the macro level. We've talked extensively about how saying yes to everything hurts your own career. But imagine if an entire organization, every employee, every manager, mastered the shield of no.
If nobody did performative favors anymore.
Exactly. What would happen to the bottom line? Most executives fear the company would collapse into gridlock. But the reality is, if everyone stopped masking the inefficiencies, stopped doing fake productivity, and only committed to what they could execute with excellence, would we finally see what true, unfiltered organizational focus looks like?
That is a fascinating question. If you are looking at your calendar for the upcoming week, find that one meeting or task you are secretly dreading, the one that drains your battery. Deploy the shield, reclaim that processing power, and see what happens to your actual output. Just remember, Michael, don't miss the recital for a spreadsheet.